And I know when I lost my job as a police officer, I was in the dumps. I was probably in the worst place in my life. And I stayed there until my mindset turned around, until I started speaking those right words to myself and started believing in the things that I could do.
No. Ooh, that's better, right, babe?
Yeah!
Yeah. She founded an architectural concrete company.
He founded a $100 million clothing company.
She took the world by storm as a social media star.
He took the world by storm as a famous serial entrepreneur.
Together we started a business.
And had babies.
Now we're figuring out the best ways to do both.
Join us as we learn from other entrepreneurs going through the same life struggles.
As they share their life hacks about success, love, kids.
And everything in between.
We become what we think about. Quote by Earl Nightingale. The most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any. Quote by Alice Walker.
Welcome back to the Entrepreneur Parents Pretty and Punk podcast. My name is Dan Caldwell, and I'm here with my beautiful wife,
Ildiko Ferenczi.
And beautiful wife, let's get that one more time.
Ildiko Ferenczi.
We're doing another late night podcast. I know you're tired over there. I see you. And but it's going to be a good one. I promise you it's going to be a good one because it's about something that's important. And that is the story that we tell ourselves becomes our reality, because that's the truth. And nobody knows that better than somebody who has dealt with that before. And I believe we both dealt with that. We both had to speak to ourselves about the stories that we tell ourselves and how it can affect our lives. I mean, what are the stories what do you tell yourself, babe? What do you, when you were trying to build your business, what were the stories that did you have limited beliefs, or were you on the right page from the get-go?
I feel like because of the way that I was brought up, I really felt like I'd had an upper edge, and this came in so valuable to me and my partner because I would push, and I would push to a point of where I know, and he told me that if I wouldn't have been pushing and speaking over him and us the way that I was, that forever he probably would have stayed in residential. And then we started booking civil, we started booking commercial, we started booking executive homes. And it was all because of the inner dialogue in my head, and also just being incredibly unsatisfied being at that level of just residential jobs. If I saw and I knew that there was something else out there, I don't think I could have lived with myself knowing that I didn't go after it. At least tried and had everybody say no repeatedly. And of course, there was a lot of no's, but persistence is key. And I saw my mother be incredibly persistent and surround herself with people that were also persistent. And I see it now in my daughter and my son.
Yeah, you will move in the direction of your words depending on the type of words that you're speaking to yourself. And I believe it's so important.
Oh, it's 100%.
To speak things that are bigger than yourself, that are speaking big dreams, big goals into your life, because if you don't do it, nobody else will.
Yeah.
You have to say those things to yourself because nobody else is pushing you.
Right. And I'm not going to say that it's easy, that those negative thoughts of failure or that you're not enough or like you'll be on your way to this meeting and you'll have a visual of it not going well. Well, you have to rewrite that very quickly because that could take over the movie in your head, the dialogue. You have to see it working out. You have to pray for it. Oh, and prayer. Are you kidding me? Prayer was always incredibly important. And I remember my mom doing it, praying with the children. I could hear her praying in her room. Prayer is a huge part of our life too. And that helps with that inner dialogue. That helps with that story. I know that sometimes things do get bad. It has been incredibly hard for me in my life, but that didn't stop me from believing that good things were coming my way.
Believing in your health and your success.
Believing in my health, believing that when my brother passed away, that I would be happy. That was a hard one. Losing your best friend, not understanding why. You guys know the story, but for those of you that don't, my brother died just a few months after his graduation. Beautiful. He was shredded. He was an athlete. He was going to go to law school. He bought his first he just put the deposit down on a home he bought. He paid for modeling school for me. All his stuff he paid for himself. He took second, third job, but he took this construction job, and there ended up being a terrible, terrible accident at work, and it took his life. His mindset was to help his mother and his sister because, we didn't have daddy in our life. We didn't have that extra money. My mom wasn't on welfare. She was working very hard to keep us in an incredibly wonderful neighborhood that had two parents. Everybody was doctors and attorneys and incredibly successful. So he had no problem just being this incredible man that would also lift us up. But he was so ahead of his time. But he lost his life, and it was so hard for me, and I never thought I'd be happy again. And truly, to be honest, a part of me would fight that until I heard the cry of my baby boy that I prayed for, and it didn't happen for years. I'm telling you that when he was born, that's when finally that grief, because when you lose someone, you're going to have grief forever. And that grief started to melt, and the children.
Yeah, because it had been so easy to just, fall into that grief just live there for a long time, forever.
Become an alcoholic, do some, I know there's children listening, but fall into the trap of feeling sorry for myself, playing the victim. Oh, my father left, and look how great he is with his other family. Woe is me. Look at everybody else has their family. Nobody had anybody pass away. And why do we have to work so hard because we don't have it? Come on. These are all excuses, and these are all things that you play in I could never forget my father. Could you imagine living like that? Could you imagine living like that? Woe is the people that live like that. And I feel so sorry for them, because you have to overcome these things, and you have to look at it. These things were given to you. I don't know why they were given to other people, but for me, I believe that where I am now, it's because I have the blueprint, I have the map, I have the survival guide for others that are going through this very thing, because it is challenging and you don't understand why these things happen, but I could definitely guide people through it that have been through it.
Yeah. So in this episode, we're going to be rewriting that internal script, because if you don't, it can affect your marriage, it can affect your business, and of course your kids are, going to inherit the way that way of thinking, that limiting belief that you have. And so we want to make sure we're getting it right. But before we jump into that, we're going to jump into this. Hey guys, we hope you're enjoying today's episode of the Pretty and Punk Podcast. And if you are, and you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button. It just takes a second. It means so much to us, because it really helps the podcast get out there to to more listeners like you guys. And if you know anybody it might help and you can send it to them, we really appreciate that too.
We also love and appreciate your reviews. Even the babies look forward to them every day. If you share this episode on social media today, don't forget to tag us. We want to celebrate you because we know it's not easy being a parent in business, and the way that you juggle things makes you a superhero. That's worth a shout out. Together, we have a community of our personal followers as well, and we just want to put it out there. We want to show everybody that this juggle is possible, and you are our family, and we're so proud and grateful to have you a part of this family. So don't forget, all the links are below in the show notes. And thank you again. And let's get back to the show. Think of it this way, friends. Your words are seeds. Look at it that way. Just let's pretend. Let's play pretend. Your words are seeds. And what you are planting in your life today is what's going to grow into the beautiful roses, the beautiful plants, or they're going to grow into weeds, prickle bushes. So just remember, the narrative we tell ourselves can flourish into our lived realities. So whatever that is, it's going to go that way. And just imagine, what if the thing standing between you and your breakthrough is the story that you keep repeating? And these are your private thoughts. What is during the day, we all have inner dialogue. What is the conversations that you're having with yourself? You need to analyze that, because sometimes the barrier we face are constructed by our own thoughts, and this is a fact. Identifying and reshaping these narratives, if they're negative, will lead to a positive transformative change. Whereas if they're negative and you're feeling sorry for yourself, or even cursing yourself, because that's basically what you're doing. If you're saying negative things over yourself, you're cursing yourself, that's going to happen. Now, it's been studied. These are facts. When you live positively and you say these positive words and thoughts in your head, and even take, biblical facts, take the whatever you're going through.
The word has the power of life and death.
That's right. Your tongue has
the power of life and
that's
death.
right. 100%. I mean, Daniel's speech is about that very thing, about the power of words, thought, and prayer. All those three things go together. They're married together, and it is so incredibly important. And sometimes it takes a little child like that to remind us of who we were before we started attacking ourselves, before we started believing the lies that other people were telling us about ourselves.
But I think that's one of the first things. Well, I know there are two things that helped me. One, first, just realizing what I'm saying to myself isn't helping the situation. Mm-hmm. And then the second thing was just seeing other people and what they were able to do with themselves. Uh-huh. I remember one of the first quotes I ever saw. I remember driving down. I was in the city of Riverside, and there was an old movie theater, like these old movie theaters, a small 2 cinemas that was closed down, and it was closed down, but I'm sure they used it for something. But it had that that like bulletin board that was up at the top where it would say the latest movies that were coming, mm-hmm. and it just said, "If you can dream it, you can do it." And then it said Walt Disney.
Yeah, I love
and
that one.
It's kind of the first time that I'd really ever heard a quote, and the first time I'd ever seen a quote, and the thought of reading it, and it was so inspiring to me. Now I know everybody knows the quote, mm-hmm. but at that time I'd never heard it before.
That's funny.
And I just remember driving by it and reading it and going, "Wow, that is so powerful. If you can dream it, you can do it." And just believing, I just kept saying that to myself. And it was like one of the first quotes I'd ever kept saying to myself, repeating over and over, just kind of believing if I can dream this idea, I can do it. And I remember years later, there was this guy who'd always come up to me, this guy that I knew fairly well, I went to school with. And he, one of those guys that always has an idea when he comes to you, like, oh, Dan, I got this idea. And we were already pretty successful at the time. Our business was doing great. And he would always come up with this, Dan, I got this idea. Man, I was thinking about, what if we did this or did that? But he would always end it with like, well, at least what I can remember, maybe not every single time, but I always just remember him saying something like, yeah, but I don't think I could do it. Like, he always say,
That's
like,
weird.
I don't think, like he just spent 15 minutes selling me on this idea.
You can't hang out with people like that.
Yeah, well, I wasn't hanging out with him.
Oh.
He would come up and find me in places,
Run.
and he would say this, say this new idea that he's got, and then, yeah, but, I can't, I don't think I could do it. And then ultimately, but if you could help me and...
Oh, no. No, you can't help people like that.
But I'm just like,
run.
Dude, well, one thing that I remember telling him that, first of all, if you believe you're never going to be able to do it, you're never going to be able to do it. And then I just repeated that quote to him, the Walt Disney quote, you got to dream about it and believe that you can do it. And one day you can do it. You will do it. And I know there's more to it than that, but it starts there. Mm-hmm. That's the minimum. You got to at least believe it's possible, because if you don't at least believe it's possible, you're absolutely never going to do it.
Listen up, friends. You don't want to miss this one. It may be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Are you an entrepreneur, a parent, or someone building something that truly matters? Well, then you need to hear this. This is your invitation to step into the spotlight on one of Apple's top 10 podcasts, the Entrepreneur Parent Pretty and Punk podcast. I'm Ildiko Ferenczi, and alongside my husband, Dan Caldwell, we host conversations that most families are too afraid to have. From building a legacy to balancing marriage, parenting, and business, the struggles, the juggles, and the breakthroughs, this is where life meets real impact. With thousands of downloads, a loyal audience of parents, and legacy-driven couples, this is more than exposure. It's a loyal connection. You'll walk away with a high-impact feature episode, pro content clips to elevate your brand, and credibility standing beside voices that are shaping the next generation. Your story could be the light someone's praying for in their darkest moment. If you're building something that truly matters, you're not just invited, you're needed. Apply now. Spots are limited. If you feel that tug on your heart, don't wait. Message us right now at contact@prettyandpunk.com. That's contact@prettyandpunk.com. Yeah, I love quotes.
What did Henry Ford say? If you think you can or you think you can't,
you're right.
You're right. I mean, that's so
scary.
True.
It's scary. And it really does stem back to the Bible. I remember when I was a child, and I love that parents that love God and believe in His Word, that they prime us when we're young, just like I'm priming my children, because that's my responsibility above all. I love business. I love making money, but obviously things will come up. Sometimes you may get sick. You may have to take some time off, and don't worry about it. There's a purpose for everything. There's a reason for everything. But back to the reason of this prayer, she would tell me, and it goes to Mark 11:24, and that's so important, that therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. That's always been powerful to her, powerful to me, and powerful to my children. And they understand that. And there's so many other things that you could stand on the good book in the Word of God, especially when you're going through hard things. With my challenge and my diagnosis, oh my gosh, this story popped into my head about how I was in the hospital and I wasn't going to do the surgery. I was going to go to do this treatment. natural treatment because I was already doing the natural treatment and it was working really, really well. And everybody was coming at me telling me I needed the surgery and I needed this and that and the chemo and all this other stuff. And I kept doing what I felt. Not everything's going to work for everybody, but for me, I knew that my mom, she refused the chemo. The doctor said, listen, I've been a doctor for a long time. She can do the chemo and she can do all the other things, but she's at an age. She's a big girl, Ildiko. Let her make her own decisions. I've seen it go many different ways. Sometimes you just watch and you wait. Hers was quite serious, but she didn't want to do it. She didn't want to do it. And what I'm trying to say here is that she strongly believed in her heart that she didn't need to do it, and it worked out okay for her. And maybe that was an example for me to have the courage to follow my heart. I did end up doing the surgery and the things that I was doing. I want to say that first and foremost, I believe in my heart that it was God, and that's why I only had to do the one thing of the many things that they wanted me to do.
They were trying to push down your throat.
They were trying to push it. It was so, and even my mom, it was scary. That chemo doctor with her, he told her she was going to die. It was so scary. And the doctor said to me, like her family doctor, elderly guy, retired that year. He said, there's people with pancreatic cancer that don't get the surgery because it's an incredibly serious surgery. And by the time the C word kills them because they're elderly, the chemo ends up getting them first. So these are just things that he saw with his experience, and they had a great conversation and they went ahead with whatever. I was doing other things, but to avoid the surgery, it would have taken me months to do the things that I was doing. I would have had to stop nursing. There's a lot of things that were on my mind that were weighing heavy on me. I wouldn't have been able to see my little newborn. So I remember looking at this doctor, the surgeon, really talented guy, incredible guy, told me if I don't do this, it's not going to end well. And if I go and miss some steps of this stuff I wanted to do, I may not have a second chance for the surgery. So there was just a lot going on. And I remember looking at him and saying, do you believe in God? And I was really exploring my faith journey here. I didn't get the answer that I wanted, but he did tell me he's seen miracles. And I just said, that's okay. It's okay because God's going to be guiding your hands. And it's funny when I read my reports, there were things like she's in denial, but she's incredibly positive. So I was telling myself these stories that they couldn't deny, that she was just in really good mood for a brand new mom. And just, I loved reading that on top of all the devastating stuff. So I'm telling you.
Well, I think even when you would say, I have to be here, this has to work.
Oh,
everything
100%.
has to work out. I just had a new baby girl and I have to be here.
Oh, when I got the diagnosis, my doctor was crying. And I said, this was the one that did the scope, and he was crying, and I knew it wasn't good. He was telling me to sit down. I'm not sitting down. We were in a gastro. We're in a gastro office. I just had a baby. I'm a total germaphobe. I told him I'm not sitting on these chairs. I know what kind of problems these people have, and I don't have those problems. So I don't want to take them home, take them, get them, and I don't want to give it to my babies. And then it got very serious from there, from my jokiness, and he started crying. I looked on his cabinet. He had a daughter that looked to be about my age with babies. I had babies. So I know that he was looking at how close to him it is, and probably just so glad that his daughter dodged that bullet. But I looked him in the eyes and I said, I can't have that. I've got babies. Like, just test me again. There's got to be something wrong. There's no, I can't have this. I can't have this. And I went out of there believing that I didn't have it. I'm not going to, no, this can't be how it ends. So 2 weeks to a few months? No, it can't be. This is not my story. I've got babies. I don't want you raising the babies. I know that I'm going to do much better job. Like, there's
what are you talking about? I
there's
would do
no
a
way
great job.
This would haunt me. Like, no, there's no way.
We would party every night, and it would be scrambled eggs for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
He literally knows how to make scrambled eggs, and that's it. And the everything healthy.
Hey. The best scrambled eggs you've ever had in your entire life.
No. But you know what? If he wanted to, he would make the wonderful things. This is getting off.
I know that, listen, I can remember having here's the thing, is that I know how powerful speaking these words to yourself are, because it's played out so many times in my life, not only with what you went through, because I know and I see how that played out, but I mean, just every part of my life, so many times, it's just when I feel like there's not only does, your attitude affect the things around you. Yeah. And that, so when you have this attitude that I can do this, I'm going to make this happen. I know that I have what it takes to make this work. It just affects the people around you. It affects the people that come in contact with you. It affects yourself and the way you deal with things. I remember I was coming home from Vegas, and this is probably midway through our journey at TapouT. We were doing well, and everything was going in our favor. Lots of things were happening in our life, and Charles was talking to these producers of the Ultimate Fighter show, and believing that we were going to have our own show. They'd mentioned this, and he'd been in conversations with them. And we drove home from Vegas, and we pulled up into our TapouT parking lot, and Charles got really emotional. He said, "Hey, I hadn't told you this. I didn't want to tell you, but I don't think the show's going to happen. It's just some things happened, and the conversations went south, and it's not going to happen, I don't think." And I told him, and this was the great thing about having a partner, is when you're down, your partner's hopefully up, and when he's down, you're up. And you guys support each other in that way. And I remember him saying this to me, and he was getting really emotional. And I just told him that I know that you're going to make this happen. I know that you can do this. I know you've willed so many things through that should have never happened. This is the one thing I know that you will make happen. And within 6 months, we had a television show. And that's... It just, every part of my life has happened that way when I turned those thoughts around. I know when I lost my job as a police officer, I was in the dumps. I was probably in the worst place in my life. And I stayed there until my mindset turned around, until I started speaking those right words to myself and started believing in the things that I could do. Mm-hmm. And that's when those things turned around for me. And I know that there's so many people, there's somebody listening here right now that, maybe sometimes speaks those words to themselves, but maybe not right now. They're not speaking those words to themselves, and they just have to make the first thing you do is realize that you're making that mistake, and the second thing you do is turn it around and start changing things and turning them in the right direction, and start speaking that power over yourselves. Mm-hmm. Start speaking that power into yourself. And that can be done. But what are some of the things that people are doing? How are they doing this? How is it affecting their marriage? Because I know, you hear about those people who say, and even I'm guilty of it sometimes, if we're talking about our partner and we're thinking, oh, they're not listening, or they're not believing in me, or they're not doing this or that, or they're not trying. You know, you can always have this criticism for them too. And then the truth is it plays out in your marriage if you start saying that stuff.
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%. I feel like they need to know the story of where you want to be, how you want the marriage to look like in 5-10 years. And I mean,
so if you speak that positivity, I could see that. You know, you speak that same positivity over your marriage,
and you tell them exactly what you want. But what if I mean, here's the problem: if they're not honoring it, or I mean, maybe they internally don't have that same story, then things are going to deteriorate.
I mean, if you guys are on different pages and they just don't, I mean, you can't make somebody be positive if they just don't want to be positive.
Yeah.
But if you're speaking that positivity over your marriage and they are, and it usually becomes infectious, you know, like they hear you.
And you have to watch.
If you're positive, if you're really a positive person and that's really coming through in that way, then I think it's why things work around you when you start acting like that. When you start acting in that way, that positivity is infectious, and then they get on board with you, and then you guys both see yourselves growing in your marriage, and you guys are doing that together, and then your kids see it. Yeah. You know, your kids see, and
I feel like
they know when you're being like that.
Everybody needs to be included in the story. I feel, I mean, strong, especially and not everybody agrees with it. I know some people that aren't in our community, they don't see how a husband and wife can work together. They have their wives at home, they're cooking and cleaning, and they have their own little wife world where they go for brunches, lunches, and hang out and girls' trips. And that's not my tea. Or men, they do their own thing, and they got their own little life. They got their business. They got their work wife, their secretary, all that stuff. They literally have work wives, and they flirt all day long, and they build their businesses with their work wives and their employees and all that stuff. That's not the life that I want. I want to build something great together. I want someone when I'm evolving and doing great things, I want my husband to not be left alone. This is exactly how my last marriage fell apart. We built something together, and then I started going after my own passion. Then he started doing his own things, and we never spent one night alone. Never, not separate. We always, but still with the passions that we were pursuing, I felt lonely.
Going in different directions.
I felt lonely. All of a sudden, the demonic thoughts, the enemy sat in, and I was lonely, and I'm sure he was lonely, and we grew apart. It was awful. So I would never want that to happen again, because I know how well we work when we do things together, but I can also see the enemy working on us, always trying to separate us in different, this comes up for me, or this comes up for you, and you need to separate. And it's like, dang, the enemy's trying it again, isn't he? Because I'm getting super lonely.
Well, that's
and
what
you're getting lonely. It's just the enemy's trying.
I mean, I believe that the enemy wants us to be down on ourselves.
Everybody.
That wants us to not think in positive ways about ourselves, not want to believe in ourselves.
Or our marriage, or our family.
Or anything.
None of it.
Yeah, because if he can take us down like that, if he can put us in that place and take us down like that, that's when so many bad things happen in your life. That's when divorce, like you were saying, or, other things happen that, Do
you remember, you were talking about your TV show in your past life. Do you remember when I was getting interviewed for Housewives of, and I totally forgot about it, but the Housewives of Beverly Hills. And I had several interviews, but I remember deep in my heart, my dialogue in my head wasn't excited. I had a baby now, and maybe this was something I would jump on when I was an actress. But I remember kind of saying, I really hope I don't get this, because I had this, I want to change the world. If I'm given a platform, I feel like I have a responsibility to do good, not create crazy drama.
That
I don't
show's
even
toxic.
watch.
Yeah.
I don't even watch that stuff. But they were so interested, and I think what ended up us not having is because like your ex or something, they don't like anybody that's had, and I had an ex, I don't think they really like anyone that's had an ex in the past, because they're worried about the money stuff. But I was so relieved, but I didn't want to quit and just say no. But I remember just the way that I would say, it was just very, I really want to make a big change in the world. I want to be a positive voice, and I don't want to do drama, and I don't want to throw tables and chairs. I don't want to be that person. So, but I don't know why they kept just interviewing again
that
and
show's
again.
disgusting. You hear so many.
Well,
I mean,
you can't
every
say that, because you don't know.
I just mean every time.
What's in
I mean,
their
how many times have you
hearts.
seen on?
But it could
on
give you
these-
incredible opportunities.
On these tabloids, you see these people and their families are falling apart, and
that's
they've been on this show, and it probably was because of the show, honestly.
I don't know too much about it. Maybe that's what was interesting, but it didn't feel right in my gut, and the story in my head didn't really want it. And guess what? We didn't actually, after many, many interviews, we actually didn't end up getting it, but we,
and
it's
probably for
interesting.
good reason.
Yeah, exactly. Right. God will close doors, and open the right ones. We know this.
Absolutely.
And we have to trust it. So it's so funny. I forgot that
guys,
even happened.
you got to take inventory of your life. What are the things you are saying? What are the stories that you're telling yourself that are keeping you stuck, that are keeping you from doing the things that you want to do, that are keeping you from creating the type of life? And I know this sounds, I mean, it sounds like, what you probably heard before, but it's true. The thing is, the reason you've heard it before is because it's true. People are saying the same thing because it's true. What are the things that you're telling yourself that's keeping you from the life that you're meant to live?
Yeah. Are you rooted in truth, or are you rooted in fear? Where are your roots? Where are the seeds growing from? You need to identify that. And then also reframe the truth. You can do that. Say it's not going very well, the story in your head, especially after kids. You may be telling yourself, after children, that you are no longer the person that you used to be, and that you've lost that person.
Yeah,
well,
that's a good one.
Have.
That's a
you
good one, because that happens to
have.
moms.
And you have, and dads too. You have lost the person that you are. You're not going to get up and just leave your family and go on a vacation by yourself, and vice versa. I'm not going to leave I've never left my children.
Yeah, it's reframing it like, hey, this is my great new life. I'm lucky enough to have this family that I can go with, and I have the support system.
Responsibility in front of God that you have to pour into these children and lead them in the way that biblically you're supposed to lead them. I know it's a big responsibility, but what an honor and that blessing. I mean, when you're pregnant or your wife is pregnant, that's the closest to God that you're going to get. The closest to heaven. It's so much love. It's incredible. So even when you're pregnant and you see your body changing, accept it in a way where it's a blessing. You're never going to feel that again. It's 9 months. Yes, it may feel like forever, but I loved it. Well, plus because I prayed for it for many, many years, and I wasn't sure if it was ever going to happen. So definitely. Anyway, reframe your truth, whatever that is. You get to have a home. Like, oh, I got to clean the home again. I got to cook. You get to cook. You get to clean the home. You get to have this marriage.
Get to spend time with your
raise
kids.
these children.
Yeah, it's great.
Don't worry.
That's a
Don't
great
worry
idea.
about the other stuff, because when you're standing up there in front of the pearly gates, they're not going to be asking how many men's trips or women's trips. The truth is, how did you do in your covenant of marriage?
Yeah.
That's the number one. How did you do in that? Because you became one flesh, right? That's the very most important thing. Did you let people tear you apart? Did you let them push you to get, who did you surround yourself with? And then number two, if you were lucky enough and blessed enough to have children, how did you raise them together as a family? Those are the most important things. Nothing else matters. Don't waste so much time building the success of your business. If you really think of it in reality, you don't need millions and millions and millions of dollars. You don't. You really don't. I mean, it's great. You want to this is the enemy talking before we had kids, right? You and I were both really go-getters. Oh, we're going to be rich. We're going to prove everyone wrong. And we're going to have all this stuff to show people how successful we are.
No, I mean, I used to tell you, I said, do you know what it takes to be a billionaire? Because you used to, so I'm going to be a billionaire. And I would tell you, I said, you know what it's going to take? It's going to take your soul, and it's going to take every waking moment of your life. You will go down a different direction if that's what you intend to do. And I believe you can do it, but I'm telling you, it's going to take every moment of your life. So get rid of anything else you want to do, because you're not going to be able to do that stuff.
All the wrong people. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad.
So I like what you were saying about reframing your life, reframing your ideas and your thoughts, because that is true. You know, that's so true. And you got to choose to tell yourself a better story. It's just important in that if you understand these things and you mind these parts of your life, that it's these little things that help. You know, because you have to be batting a 10 in every area to really, there's so many things that come up in your life. You have to be batting a 10 in every area of your life, or you got to be trying anyways, to really make it, to have a great life, to have success over here in your business, have success in your marriage, have success. You have to be trying in all those areas of your life. And if you're not doing the little things over here, if you're not speaking the right words to yourself, if you're not investing your money in the right places, if you're not surrounding yourself with the right people, there's so many things that you have to get right to make it all work. Mm-hmm. And this is one of them. And this one is easy. This is the one easy thing that you can do. This is the one thing that if you just have to be mindful about it, and that if you get this right, you'll get this part right.
Yeah.
It will definitely change your life, and it will make it better because of it.
Before you reach for that coffee, consider this. What if the energy boost you're looking for isn't in your cup, but in your cells? I challenge you to swap your morning coffee for Shilajit by Symbiotica. And here's what can happen. No crash, no jitters, just clean, sustained energy, plus mental clarity and trace minerals that our bodies actually need, that are actually starving for, to be honest. This isn't just a supplement. It's an ancient adaptogen sourced from the Himalayas that supports mitochondrial function, stamina, and overall vitality. Your coffee never did that. Okay, let's just be honest. Try it for a week and tell me your body doesn't thank you. Symbiotica's Shilajit is next level wellness, and honestly, you may never go back to drinking coffee. Click the link below down in the bio and get your Shilajit today. That's right. Well, and the one more thing that I wanted to add that people can do today, I love to give you guys tactical steps that you can implement today, right now. I want you guys to start, if you're not already, is your daily affirmations. And I don't mean the woo-woo stuff, but I mean beginning each day by declaring positively who you are and whose you are. So in the good book, there's so many things that may resonate with you that you can say as my children, I do this every single day after prayer, and then gratitude giving, just being grateful. You can't have a bad day even when you're going through things that loss or health issues that are really scary, when you are giving gratitude. There's always something to be thankful for. And for me, especially during that time, and I know that God timed it perfectly, my babies, there's no greater love in the world than little babies, little children that love you unconditionally. Like, this is true love. It's a true love that I wish everybody could experience, but that was my medicine. And then our affirmations and who we are. We're fearfully and wonderfully made. And there's just so many other things that we say every morning together. Anyway, it's really fun to do it. Include your children, include your husband if he's there, include your whole family in this, and affirm who you are in the eyes of God. You're royalty. You're royalty.
And you could just speak how powerful you are, and how you have the strength to do whatever you need to do, how you're equipped with all the tools that you need to be who you want to be.
These are facts.
And you have to say them out loud. You have to say it so that you are...
Put them on sticky pads. I wrote it on my bathroom mirror. So every time I'd go to the bathroom, every time I'd look in the mirror, they were written down there. I'm getting
There's some
better
in our
and better
cabinet
every
right
day,
now. I was just looking at them today.
Yeah,
So,
it's everywhere. Sometimes I still need the reminder, and it's, oh, thank you. My mom used to pray over us every single day. So it wasn't just my affirmations, but I feel like I have a lifetime of prayers just stacked up, and then my children's
praying's powerful.
Pray for your family, pray for yourself, pray for your loved ones. And we got to wrap it up.
At that time. Thank you guys for tuning in for this episode of the Entrepreneur Parents Pretty and Punk podcast.
God bless
and we hope to
guys.
catch you guys next week.
Whatever you're going through, change the story. It's a blessing. I love you.
It was an absolute joy for you guys to join us on the Entrepreneur Parents Pretty and Punk podcast. We hope you guys to join us next week. And until then, we love you. God bless. Thank you for joining us today. It was a pleasure spending time with you. Please show us someone you know that needs it. Can you also be kind enough to give us 5 stars and a kind review about what you love about the show? It helps give it to people who need it. See you next time. God bless. Eat your vegetables and do your exercises.